Who is to blame for our problems? Throughout history, humanity has marched forward not only with innovation and progress, but also with the weight of immense suffering. Colonization, genocide, wars, disease, and poverty have left their indelible marks, shaping the world we live in today. These forces have ripped apart societies, stolen lives, and fostered deep inequalities. The scars of humanity's past are etched deep, a testament to the suffering inflicted by various forces. Let's delve into the lasting effects of these struggles. Colonization. The forceful subjugation of nations by others has left a legacy of dispossession, cultural erasure, and economic exploitation. Indigenous populations were stripped of their land, resources, and traditions, leading to long-term social and economic disparities. The ripples of colonialism continue to be felt in political instability, ethnic tensions, and struggles for self-determination. Genocide and wars. These systematic attempts to annihilate entire ethnic or religious groups represent some of humanity's darkest chapters. The Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, and countless others have resulted in massive loss of life, psychological trauma for survivors, and ongoing ethnic conflict. The scars of these events continue to haunt societies, demanding constant vigilance against hate and prejudice. Poverty. A persistent and complex issue, poverty denies individuals and communities basic necessities like food, shelter, and healthcare. It fuels a cycle of disadvantage, often trapping families in a desperate struggle for survival. Poverty can lead to social unrest, crime, and a weakened immune system, making people more susceptible to diseases. Holocaust. The systematic extermination of Jews by Nazi Germany during World War II stands as a stark reminder of the depths of human cruelty. 6 million lives were lost, leaving behind a legacy of unimaginable horror and a profound sense of loss. The Holocaust serves as a powerful symbol of the dangers of unchecked hatred and the importance of fighting all forms of intolerance. Diseases. Throughout history, infectious diseases have ravaged populations, causing widespread death and disruption. From the Black Death in medieval Europe to the ongoing fight against HIV/AIDS and COVID-19, these pandemics test healthcare systems and social structures. Diseases can exacerbate existing inequalities, disproportionately affecting the poorest and most vulnerable communities. But who is to blame for all this? There are various bodies in the world that try to tackle these problems on a small scale and others on a macro level. But we still suffer today, and somehow it feels like the world is getting worse instead of getting better. Blame gets shifted from one organizing body to another and from one ethnic group to another. But who is really to blame for these problems, and how do we fix these problems once and for all? Let us go to the word of our Creator to understand why we suffer and how we can eradicate pain in the world once and for all. The Bible talks about the blessings we are to get if we obey God's commandments, and the curses we are to get if we fail to obey. Let us take the time to examine these curses. Deuteronomy 28 verses 15 to 28. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. 17. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. 19. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. 21. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. 23. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. 24. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. 27. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart. 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. 31. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look, and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. 33. The fruit of thy land, and all thy labors, shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed alway. 34. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. 35. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees, and in the legs, with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. 36. The Lord shall bring thee, and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword, among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. 38. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. 39. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. 40. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. 42. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. 44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedst not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. 47. Because thou servedst not the Lord thy God with joyfulness, and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. 50. A nation of fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kine, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedst, throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. 53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave. 55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. 57. And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. 58. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God. 59. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance. 60. Moreover he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. 61. Also every sickness, and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee, until thou be destroyed. 62. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. 63. And it shall come to pass, that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good, and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you, and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. 65. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. 67. In the morning thou shalt say, Would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, Would God it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. In verse 25 we see that we shall be defeated by our enemies. Verse 28 says we shall get mental diseases, blindness, and heart problems. Verse 29 says we shall be oppressed and no one will come to help us. Verse 33 says that the fruits of our labor shall be eaten by others. Verse 48 says, we shall have hunger and be oppressed. Verse 64 says, we shall be scattered all over the world. Verse 66 says, we shall live in fear and insecurity. Verse 68 says, we shall be sold as slaves. These are the problems that we currently have in the world that have caused us so much pain and have left us scared. We are just living under the curse that our Creator talked about if we fail to honor His laws. And that explains why we haven't come up with a solution to our world problems, because any solution that doesn't involve going back to obey God's laws won't work. The only way we fix these issues is by going back to obeying the laws. If we do obey the laws, God promises us restoration and blessings. God has always had good plans for us, as shown in Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11, which says, For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. And in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 19, God has also promised that if we obey Him, we shall eat all good things from the earth. Some of you may be wondering, why are they talking about the law, and after Jesus came we are no longer under the law? Others may also be wondering, how are we going to obey the law and it seems hard? Matthew chapter 5 verses 17 to 18 says, Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Jesus here said it himself that he never came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. He even went further to illustrate how God's laws are important by saying in verse 18, that it's easier for heaven and earth to pass than for the law to be changed. This shows that as long as you see the sun rising and the earth is still there, the laws that govern the earth and humanity still apply. And Jeremiah chapter 23 verses 38 and 39 show that if we say God's ways are difficult, then God will abandon us. If you want to learn more about the blessings we are to get if we obey God's laws, you can read Deuteronomy chapter 28 verses 1 to 14. And these blessings do not only apply to Israelites, they apply to anyone in the world who decides to follow God's law and obey it. It doesn't matter which race, religion, or nationality you're from. As long as you want to end the pain and suffering in your life and enjoy the blessings that God promised, just obey God's laws and you will see changes in your life. Where can you get started in following the law? You can start by obeying the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20. Thus, you can start by honoring the Sabbath day, having no other gods, which means you only pray to our Creator, not having idols and images, which means you don't use things like crystals and salt to pray, and you don't pray to ancestors, and don't keep anything that resembles what God created. For example, you don't keep dolls that resemble a human or toys that resemble animals that God created. This also includes not putting on hair extensions or artificial nails because they resemble the real hair and nails that God created in a human. You can get started with these then. As you continue to learn the Torah from the Old Testament and the Gospel in the New Testament, God will help you grow in His ways.